So, okay, we'll try the sharing again. Okay. So again, if I go to this, I can track down my IP address for this. Um, Now, with those numbers, that's what's called an IPv4, version 4 number. There's not that many addresses for that. They're only, and again, at one point we thought this would be plenty. There's only about 4 billion addresses here. And originally we thought there's no way we're going to have 4 billion computers. That would mean everyone, most of the world would have their own computer, even kids would have, how would that ever happen there? But today, if you look at how many devices do you have that have their own internet connection, so you alone probably have, two, three, four devices, especially when you start talking now smart TVs have their own IP address, phones, tablets, laptops, my car, maybe, you could have lots of things that'll have, maybe my car doesn't actually have an IP address, but things like that. So we've run out largely of these 4 billion addresses here. So we don't give every device a unique address. With like in your home will have, or your apartment, like let's talk about a home rather than, because the college apartments are kind of weird, but inside let's say your parents' house or something like that, that address, that home ad will have one address, IP address for the whole house. And then within that house, different devices will have a special IP address within that subnetwork, kind of like there. And so, although most of these are reserved, there are some areas that are reserved for special addresses. So one is 192.168. So that is used for small houses. So if you ever look like at your house, if you look at your phone's IP address or whatever, it might say it's 192.168 dot something there. And everything in your house will be there. Their external address, IP address, will be the same, but everyone inside that little network of your house, everyone will be having a different 192.168 address for that. And so that's how we're kind of share these network addresses. The other version of this is 10.10 there. So anything that's generally labeled 10.10. So if I look, I can't do it. Well, often if your Pi is connected to Wi-Fi only, and you say, what IP address you're at, you often will say it's like a 10.10. And again, within that'll be whatever's on the Wi-Fi, shared Wi-Fi here will be one of those numbers. So now to combat that, we're moving from IPv4 to IPv6 version 6. I don't know what happened to version 5. We just kind of got rid of that. So we're going from 4 to 6 here. So we're going from 32-bit addresses to 128-bit addresses. So rather than seeing addresses that look like this, new addresses will look kind of like this. A lot more numbers here. And virtually unlimited addresses space for this. So we are now moving that. We've been trying to move to IPv6 for 10 years now. It is slowly getting adopted, but still almost lots of things are running on both now, IPv4 and IPv6. A lot of devices will be using both. So we talked a little bit about how your home, how how the internet is running, so for Ethernet, every computer here is connected to one of those switches in the center of the hallways. And each one of those switches run a fiber optic cable to some centralized switches on campus. And that serves as the backbone on campus. And then from there, we run a dedicated line down to the Twin Cities through our main internet service provider. And that provides our connection to the internet from campus here. Now let's talk about your like basic home connection. So have you played at all with your home stuff? So like, what do you know? Do you have a cable at home? Do you have what kind of network do you have? Can someone just if you know your network at home, can you describe it? So
What do you?
like, do you have a cable? Do you have a cable modem? Do you have Wi-Fi? What are you running at home? So
Think I have a modem and Wi-Fi. I don't know. I set mine up through Spectrum for my
So
house.
Spectrum is your cable provider. So again, there you're getting not a category 5 an Ethernet cable, you're getting an actual coax cable into your house that would provide cable TV and what you know really connect like TVs. But you'll have a cable modem there that connects that cable and then might provide Ethernet cables or plugs on it. Sometimes that will also provide Wi-Fi, although it's also possible that you have a separate Wi-Fi. So it's pretty common to have a cable modem. So this connects your ISP, like Spectrum here. And again, generally coax cable, or it could be fiber. And it translates the internet service provider signal into Ethernet packets here. And again, often you have a Wi-Fi router that's connected to the cable modem, and that is broadcasting your Wi-Fi. So there's usually an Ethernet cable running from the cable modem to the Wi-Fi router, and then the Wi-Fi router is doing Wi-Fi there.
So like the Wi-Fi routing, would it be like the service through like Verizon or T-Mobile or something like that?
No, so that's going to be cell, and we'll get to that. So Wi-Fi is just your internet, your home internet within your home, and not on it. But your phone and your tablet and stuff will connect to Wi-Fi. So like my phone connects to both the cell network and the Wi-Fi network. But like my tablet only connects to Wi-Fi. It doesn't connect. I don't have, and some tablets have cell, but I don't pay for. I don't know if my tablet would do that. But again, I'm not paying cell for a monthly cellular bill for my tablet because I'm only using it inside. So if I go outside, or somewhere else, I can't use my tablet in the car. I can use my phone in the car, right? Because I don't have cellular on my tablet there. Now my laptop only works on Wi-Fi. It doesn't work on cell there. So again, my tablet won't work in the car generally, right? For that there. So again, different devices will be set up in different ways. Now, well, like Saturday, I was at the deck all day and I couldn't get on their Wi-Fi because they didn't give us the password for the Wi-Fi. And I needed to do stuff at the deck on my laptop. So what are your options there? So I could have cell, so I could do everything on my phone, but I really wanted to use my laptop. But again, I can turn my phone into a Wi-Fi hotspot. So my phone, because my phone has both a Wi-Fi antenna and a cell antenna, so I can turn it in so it will take signals over the cell phone network and rebroadcast them over the Wi-Fi, and then my laptop could connect to my phone's hotspot as if it were, so basically we're replacing one of these Wi-Fi device, things with a little phone. It's not near as fast, but it'll get you by in places there. So let's talk about some common variations of this home situations. Has anyone used or seen a mesh network at their house or know what that is?
I have a Wi-Fi extender that's a mesh.
Okay, yeah. So let me look at a So this is a traditional Wi-Fi router sort of stuff. It's big antennas, a number of them. You connect it up, and it tries to cover your whole house maybe with Wi-Fi. It needs an Ethernet connection going to it. It converts that Ethernet wire and broadcasts it over the Wi-Fi there. So you could have that. And again, sometimes your cable modem will have one of these built in. So if your cable modem might have some antennas sticking out, it probably has one of these built into it here. But a lot of houses and a lot of devices, we run into problems getting connections to all the rooms in your house because this will be in one spot, and the other end of the house you might not get Wi-Fi very good there. And also, like I at my church I go to has this, and so again we had one of these, but again in different parts of the church, Sunday school room or the sanctuary, we could not get the signal there. So the alternative these days are these mesh networks, and these are these sorts of kits here. And again, one of these has to be connected up to Wi-Fi, to Ethernet. So one of them has to be plugged into Ethernet. And some of them will have a base that has to be connected. Some of them, anything can be connected up. And then they will talk to each other and extend your network. And so you can put these, as long as they can talk to each other over Wi-Fi, and they will then talk to each other and rebroadcast that Wi-Fi signal there. So again, it's not uncommon, like they sell these in a 3-pack. So like this is what I have at my house. I have one of these plugged in by where the internet comes in, and then one of them on the other level, and one of these I'll buy my window by my garage because I want Wi-Fi in my garage. There. So those are my 3. I have 3 of them that run Wi-Fi around my house. So yeah, mesh sort of stuff. And they're pretty easy to configure. You just kind of plug them in and they learn to talk to each other pretty well. So that's a Wi-Fi network here. Let's talk about, so what options do we have to the home? So most people are going to use cable because they have the cable coming into their house, and they'll have a cable modem doing this, like Spectrum would be an example of that. You can use satellite here. There are different satellite versions. So again, especially if you're outside of cable range. So again, I used to live 10 miles north of town here, and we never had cable there. And so we couldn't get we couldn't get internet over cable. And satellite was, back then, satellite wasn't really an option. So there are some satellite options that are very high, like DirecTV that provides it, but the high options are very good at sending you data, but if you want to send data up, or you want to do some sort of communication back and forth, they're not very good. So like Zoom calls or game playing, the delay with the big satellites are not there. They're replacing that with low-level satellites. The problem with low-level satellites is you need thousands of them rather than just 5 there. So they're putting up, some companies are putting up thousands of satellites at low levels so that they can do quick communication back and forth with you. So there are now satellite options. Some of you probably know Chris Leisner. He lives out by Esco. Again, he doesn't get, where he lives, he doesn't get fast internet. He has to have satellite generally to get any sort of good internet connection there. Some places have fiber to the home. Paul Bunyan is the big fiber provider in northern Minnesota. And so if you're in northern Minnesota, it's weird. They serve rural areas and they're a co-op and that stuff. So it's interesting. I have a cabin in Classic, Minnesota, in the middle of nowhere. I have faster internet there than I do in Duluth here because Paul Bunyan internet ran fiber right to my cabin. So I have fiber to the cabin door. So I can work from home at my cabin much easier. I mean, I have just cable modems here, so it's not bad. And the other thing is to run cell here and just use the cell phone signal. And this is getting more common, it seems like, where, so I said you could use your phone as a hotspot, and that's what I did, just to have that. But you can also just buy little devices that will that you can use as a hotspot there. We used to do this all the time. We would, when we were in Ireland with students for a semester. In Europe, I think this is much more common because, again, the swapping in and out of SIM cards and stuff like that, and the open networks are much more common. But again, we just buy these little devices. They'd run on batteries there, and they'd have a cell card in them, and then we subscribe, and then we could have like 4 students connected to that one device, and it was working on cell phone. So then you could use your tablet or things like that on that. So let's actually talk a little bit about cell technologies here. So just like everything else, there are multiple cellular technologies out there. So besides, like, you probably heard of like 3G or 4G or 5G, besides the generation stuff, there are actually underlying technology changes out there. And some of them relate to some of these things. So there used to be 2 competing models, GSM and CDMA here. And so Europe, well, most of the world used GSM, and the United States and used CDMA. And they were often incompatible. So that if you took a phone, you couldn't switch from one network to the other, and you couldn't, if you went abroad or went somewhere else, your phone just wouldn't work in those networks because it was a whole different cell phone technology there. So like 20 years ago, I'm trying to remember the first time I was in Ireland, I think it was 2004. I guess that was 20 years ago. Wow. So 20 years ago, we spent a couple months in Ireland. And again, these are back in the flip phone days. You know, did you ever have a flip phone? Say yes, thank you. So flip phone era. So, and they were locked in, dude. So we had our phone, we got our phones over there. They were CDMA phones, they were Verizon. And so there's no way to get them to work in Europe. There is a totally different network at that time. There's nothing, and you can do it. So our phones were just useless over there. Nowadays, most places use LTE, and this is often referred to 4G. And again, this is standard. So we've gotten rid of these competing technologies and just worked for LTE. And now we're moving to 5G. And again, that's a unified kind of worldwide standard here. So if you look by continent here, so, you know, North America, we are still largely 4G. They say 5G is expanding. Yeah, I don't know. The problem with 5G is that the range of 5G is just not that far. I forget what it is, but it is not very far. So there's lots of places in Minnesota that are never, I don't think are ever going to get 5G because there's just not enough devices, you know, along the highways and stuff like that to justify a 5G. What is the range of 5? Someone look up that. Here's the range of a 5G tower. So it says it can reach up to 10 miles, but really it can reach 500 feet.
Low band, basically the same.
Yeah, it's 4G. So basically it's 4G. I mean, basically it's saying, you know, when they say 5G, and it's right, you know, and so that means every 10 miles you have to, you know, have a new thing. I'm just thinking, I drive from here to Grand Rapids, that's you know, or I drive down, you know, it's 100, like 70 miles, you know, that's 10 cell phone towers, even at the low band sort of stuff. So again, and again, we still have some 3G out there. It is being phased out. Europe, again, similar standards. Again, one of the problems is that there GSM has been dominant. So if you have an older technology, older phone, it has to be a GSM version for this. So Asia is leads in 5G adoption there, and 4G LTE is widespread, and almost all of the 3G has been retired. South America, I was surprised we were just down in Costa Rica and how good signal was everywhere. I thought it was much, because I always thought when you got away from, again, like in Minnesota, you get away from the highways or whatever. I hit dead zones a lot in Minnesota. It's not uncommon to hit dead zones there, but in Costa Rica, I was surprised how few of dead zones we had there. So Africa, 4G is growing, and again, still like we're still seeing some 2 and 3G supported there, and 5G is being rolled out. Similar Australia and Oceania for this. It's interesting. I know, like 10 years ago, my sister did spend a few years in Guatemala for the Peace Corps, and then back then she was in a rural village, and there was just one phone in the whole village. And again, so we'd call her to get called. You'd have to call and then talk to everyone there, and they'd say okay, and then hang up, and they'd go get her, track her down, and she'd have to call her back. And then she came back 15 years ago. She was in the town, and they didn't run wires around the houses. They just put they had their one. They just put a cell phone tower, and everyone in the town had a cell phone at that point. So they just skipped the whole wired infrastructure and went straight with the cell phone technology. And that seems to be a nice way to bring infrastructure up in some locations here. So. Okay, let's see, what are we doing this week here? So let's go back here. Oh, it's snowing again. So I don't know, some of you may not have had Minnesota weather here, but March is a psychologically hard month because it gets very nice and warm and sunny like it was this weekend there. But March is the snowiest month of the year. We get more snow in March than any other month. So if you thought we're all done with snow, that's probably not the case. But if you wait a little bit, it melts. So that's good. So, but psychologically, it's hard on me with all this snow. I'm ready for the snow to be away. So. Okay, so again, similar stuff this year. We'll be going through this exercising class on Thursday. Oh no, we were supposed to do that today. So let's see. Let's go through that exercise now. That's what I wanted. And then the activity is you can work on your own, and then the lab is here. So let's bring up the exercise and see how you're doing with that. So I was supposed to have you bring up the exercise. That's not, you were supposed to type things in. Sorry, I kind of forgot about that. So, okay. So again, let's walk through. This will be somewhat of a review here. So this asks, find a description of the OSI reference model, paste the description here. And again, you can use AI if you want, or you can just Google it here. Where it says paste source URL, if you use AI for this, just tell me which AI you're using here. And then again, find a diagram mapping TCP/IP onto the OSI layers here and paste that. And we're going to look at a diagram, how we might map this, create a diagram showing how the layers used by Secure Shell to connect your Raspberry your PC to Raspberry Pi using secure shell with the following layers here. So what I want you to do is create your own kind of diagram. Let me try to turn this here and show you what we're kind of looking at. The idea here is that we'll have different layers. And so let's just talk about your PC. You're going to run secure shell at the top layer of your PC. So this would be our PC. And we're going to try to talk to our Raspberry Pi over here. And we'll run secure shell. Our secure shell has to talk to the secure shell server on your Pi. So they have to communicate together, but they don't actually talk directly to each other. So they're going to run TCP underneath this. We're on the network, and that's where we get our address, and then underneath that, we're going to run IP. Because again, remember when we say secure shell, we usually say secure shell and then an address like 192.168.1.1, an IP address. And so that will kind of allow them to communicate at the IP level. But again, they don't actually communicate there. We go on to the physical layer here. And maybe both of these are on Ethernet. Where they're talking to each other on Ethernet. And this is the actual connection between them here. That's one way of doing it now. We're not actually plugging our Raspberry Pis into Ethernet generally. We can, but there's only one Ethernet plug on each computer. If we unplug it there and plug it in your Raspberry Pi, then you won't have it on your computer. So it might be that you don't have Ethernet on your Raspberry Pi, you have Wi-Fi. So if that's the case, we're then talking to our Wi-Fi router. Which again is it's in the hallway right out there for this. And your Wi-Fi router actually has to speak all the way up to IP, has to translate and route IP addresses. So it has to know enough IP to look at IP addresses and know where to send them over on Ethernet or on Wi-Fi for that. So we have our Wi-Fi router in here. So that's kind of how we thought. So in our mind, we think secure shell is talking to secure shell at the application layer. But in reality, and you can also think that TCP is sending packets to TCP over here, and you can kind of visualize that virtual connection. But the actual information goes down in layers, gets sent over, and then up in packets and sent here. So it kind of takes this roundabout path. Next thing I want you to do, 1.4 is the last mile. We talked about cable, satellite options. There's actually if you have a phone connection coming to your house, you can get internet over your phone options. So I'd like you to just research some different options for connections You can certainly just pick what, like your home address or some address like that and do some research. See if you can figure out what the speeds, what the options are as far as cost and that sort of stuff for this. If you can with the connection, a lot of it's going to be hard because a lot of these have an introductory price. So if you can get below the intro price and see what the long-term price is, that would be okay here. So again, it could be cellular, it could be satellite, it could, there are a number of satellite options, including one called Starlink out there for this. But again, like I say, a lot of these cellular networks. So I have AT&T, so I was just looking. AT&T now sells home internet on 5G with this stuff. So again, this will be home internet with a over the cellular network till it gets home and then Wi-Fi at your house here. So. And a lot of times to check for service, you have to actually type in an address. Sometimes it's good to type in your neighbor's address because if you type in your address, they can actually often track you and all your ads switch to that. So sometimes I just type in my name. Yeah, I have some friendly neighbors next door, and they can do that. Oh, good news! AT&T Internet Air is available at my address for only $60 a month. Initial fees, I wonder. So I could then so again, sometimes you have to read to see if that's an introductory offer or not. Might be the actual price. So. And again, you can try to see if you can tell what the speeds are. Sometimes they'll advertise a speed here. Sometimes they don't very well. So you might be able to do a Google search on it to get an approximate speed for this service. Sometimes you don't know. So when you're filling this out, certainly you can get the connection type and some sort of cost, hopefully estimate. See if you can find a speed or not here. And again, like Duluth, the main one is Spectrum home internet here. So I can just look at maybe packages here to see different speeds here. And again, it looks like I have to enter his address. It looks like Spectrum isn't even showing me pricing anymore. At least when I entered my address because I'm a current customer. So yeah, let me know if you have trouble finding pricing. It used to be they would just list all their prices right on their page. So, but it looks like they might not be doing that so much anymore. That's too bad. So okay. Uh I'm gonna let you work on that. I'm gonna go grab some Cat5 cables so you can take them apart and do this part 5, but feel free to go on and do part 2 here in just a sec. Okay. I'm going to cut this Cat5 cable thing so you can just take a peek at it, pull the wires apart so you can see what wires are actually in this sort of wire. What is it made up of? You might have to take a pen or pencil in there to kind of push the wires out initially there, but see if you can pull the wires apart. See if you can figure out why it's called twisted pair wires and take it apart. You can, we'll just throw them out when you're done. So try not to make a big mess, but see if you can get all the wires. And again, if you have a little pen, sometimes that'll help you get the wires separated here. There's this blue plastic casing that you've got to kind of get out of the way. hopefully you can get it, the wires inside. There. So for 1.5, just describe what you find inside your Cat5 cable. So. For part 6, I mean, for part 2, we talked a little bit about IPv4 and V6. And again, we're just running out of addresses for V4. And so we just need more addresses for devices. We didn't really talk about TCP versus UDP. Has anyone heard of UDP versus TCP? UDP is a very somewhat unreliable network, but it's very, very fast. In TCP, we send packets, we wait for acknowledgements. If they don't come, we resend packets, and there's a lot of delay to get TCP to work. UDP, we just send the packets, and we don't wait for an acknowledgement or anything like that. What do you think? Where would we want to use something on internet that protocol that's just very, very fast there, where real-time interactions, real-time things are important here? It's actually used a lot in video games for synchronizing multiplayer games. So if you're in a multiplayer game and you're shooting and your opponent is shooting, we need to figure that out fast. We can't have a very good delay. So again, if you're shooting at your opponent, but the delay is such that we're using TCP, that's being sent to some server and the answer is getting back and broadcast to all the other players in your network there. By the time your opponent will get that message, they may have already shot at you there. And so you may shoot at them first, but because of the delay, they will still shoot at you, stuff like that. Or again, if you're swinging at them or fighting them, all that stuff. So all that sort of stuff, the game stuff usually uses UDP rather than TCP because it's faster. So the other thing that sometimes uses UDP is social networking. There, like when you're sending pictures or updates on social media, scrolling, sometimes that is set with UDP because again, we can set it a little faster with our stuff. So again, on some of these, we used to have to research that. If you want to use AI to ask some of these things, you certainly can do that with mesh Wi-Fi here.
Thursday,
Okay,
maybe for a baseball trip.
okay,
And do I just have to do the lab?
Yeah.
And then
right. Right. Are we using the pies in the lab?
I think so. Okay.
Yeah, we're doing some of that stuff. Yeah.
Is there a class after this?
There isn't a class after this.
So I'm just gonna do it now.
Okay, so do you want, should I grab your Raspberry Pi or?
Oh, I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, you can use it. Yeah. Again, like with base sports, if you need, if you are gone, need an extension, I can always give you an extension.
Okay.
So,
I'll try to get it done.
yeah, yeah,
I'll let you know. Thank you.
yeah, that's all. Are you going somewhere warm?
Yeah, Florida,
I thought this was probably your Florida trip.
a little warmer.
Yeah.